What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of PoorManMods. This is your new host, Moser and Brad, since Freddie got fired for driving an off-road vehicle off-road. Today we have the Nitrous Express nitrous system for carbureted motor, and Moser's going to tell you some more about it.
It's their budget kit. For the carbureted part, it's a wet system, so it injects nitrous and fuel at the same time through that little plate. We're going to be installing all of this on my 92 Ranger. Has a 302 out of an 86 GT Mustang. The transmission's out of an 87 Thunderbird. Rear end's out of an Explorer. So basically we just found whatever junkyard parts we could to throw it together, and here it is.
You couldn't have possibly expected me to remember all of that. Anyway, this is going to be a two-part video series. We're going to have the first part installing the kit on the truck, and then the second part we're going to run it on the dyno and show you the results.
And hopefully not blow it up.
But it's going to blow up.
So for starters, we're just going to mount it in the bed here. Like if it was a car, we could put it back in the trunk. Don't have a trunk for a truck. Going to put it back here. We can always take it out, move it later. We're thinking maybe put like a toolbox back here and mount it in the toolbox to where it stays out of the elements. You could get like a real nice tonneau cover to where it keeps everything nice and dry. But for now, we're just going to put it there. It's easy to see, easy accessible, and we'll run from there. So we're going to mount it up on top of the ridges here. Want to make sure your bottle's going to fit in there nicely. Width-wise, the next one going to be a little too much. We're going to keep it inside there, keep it up on top to where it's easier to get to rather than trying to sink down in. And more or less just going to line it up, mark a couple spots out, and drill some holes.
So Moser, what are we doing here?
So apparently, since I can't just start drilling holes everywhere, we got to get technical and try and mark out where we're going to put all these holes. We'll measure 5 inches. That's a nice... Well, that's not really an even number, I guess. That's an odd number. But it's a nice number that I can read and count to. Oh, look at that. So we're going to use a little center punch here to where I have a perfect spot. Oh. Perfect spot right where the drill bit's going to sit to where we started out real nice like. So now that we got our 4 pilot holes, we'll take the big bit. Now again, like we stated earlier, this is their budget nitrous kit, so you do have to buy some extra hardware, wiring, some of the stuff like that. This just gives you the basic essentials on what you need to put some nitrous on your carbureted engine. Got my handy assistant underneath with these nuts to put it all together. Here. Matt?
Yes.
There's the other 2. So it's important with this kind of stuff, read the directions the whole way through, read everything. It says in the directions when you're mounting it sideways like this that the siphon tube has to be pointing down. So we're going to mount it in just like that, get everything all tight to where it's in that position and doesn't have any wiggle room. So the next part is to route the braided nitrous line down underneath of the truck up to where the carburetor and everything is to deliver it to the engine. When we still had the bottle in, we marked out right where the hose is going to come down through and made our spot. So the hole that you need needs to be 3/4 of an inch. We're going to use this step bit here to be able to get to the desired size. So since we just crudely drilled holes down through the metal bed, PoorManMod it, take a piece of hose, cut a slit in it to wrap around your braided line to where it doesn't get cut up running it down through the bed.
Just like wrap it up somewhere underneath.
Just did it really nicely.
So we're going to take the black cap off of the bottle, drop our fitting down through, and then run your threads together, get her nice and snug like. Helps if you turn it the right way. Wind it back up on the bottle.
What's the torque spec on that there?
That's 16 Newton meters, Mr. French boy. Snug this up a little bit past hand tight. So the last part we're gonna do is tighten up the nuts and bolts for the bracket, and then we'll be done with the bottle and this back half of the braided line. So after we got everything mounted up and hooked up in the back, we ran the line down underneath of it. Be sure to keep it away from any moving parts, any fuel, anything electrical. Keep it clean, run it up through, back up through, and we're gonna run it off onto this side. Have everything hooked up right here. All right, guys, Brad and Moser back here in the process of tearing off the air cleaner and carburetor to put the plate on for this Nitrous Express kit. All right, so just start tearing everything that holds this carburetor to the engine off.
Something's gonna approach me.
And play some music behind it, kind of thing. One hose on this side that I just found. Go ahead and make sure we clean up this mating surface for the gasket to sit on. Okay, so with this kit, because of the spacer, obviously we have longer studs that we need to put in here. My leg! Go ahead and install our new tall studs to where the spacer and the carburetor fit on there nicely. So we'll go ahead and do the double nut like we did to take the old ones off.
Guys, so this is the carburetor plate. Before we install it, we're going to pre-install the solenoids, which are going to go on the ends here for the fuel and the nitrous. Before that, we're going to install the jets on each side. We're set up for the 100 horsepower shot of nitrous, which means we're using the 52 jet on the nitrous side and the 41 jet on the fuel side. They were kind enough to label these very clearly so you don't mess it up. So we got those installed, then we're going to put the solenoids on and install it on the truck. Alright, so Nitrous Express provides us with all the things you see here. The nitrous solenoid, the fuel solenoid, the carburetor block for introducing both, and 2 new gaskets. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you how we're going to install these on here before we put it on. Alright, to install the solenoids, there is a cap and a compression fitting that will slide over. That's all provided in the kit. That will mate up with the threaded side of the solenoid and get tightened down as you see. Repeat the same procedure on the other side without dropping stuff for the second or third time. Put your cap and solenoid on. Make sure it's the right one.
Alright, so we're thinking and hoping we're ready to start putting this here plate on. Okay, so for our particular application, we cut this metal line, fuel line that runs behind to be able to put the T in to where the fuel portion of the plate comes right in through the back here, and then everything runs up to plug into the carburetor as normal. So now we're going to go ahead and put this solenoid into our fuel hose. We figured it would be easier to work and massage this into the hose rather than to have it hooked up to the plate and try and do this. Alright, so now that we got that fuel solenoid in, we're ready to go ahead and drop the plate down on here one last time, make sure everything lightens up. So that looks pretty damn good, Tater. Alright, got everything on there, tightened up for our lines and our solenoids. Now we're going to go ahead and drop this here carburetor back down on. Now we're going to install the provided washers and nuts that came with your extended studs to secure this carburetor down.
We did that on Phil's Geo.
Just screw it in, shut the hood.
That sounds about right the way this truck looks.
It's a cool car. Let it.
I'm buying every other car I see. He's not like Wade.
All right, so for the wiring portion, we're gonna install this 40 amp relay. This does not come with the kit, so we bought it at our local hardware store. I'm going to hook this up with a ground switch, so the system will be powered on by flipping that switch in the cabin, and that will ground the relay, which is why I jumpered together the main lead and the relay hot. And then the yellow will go to the 2 solenoids. This is just one relay that you need so that both fuel and nitrous are activated by the same relay. You wouldn't want to have 2 relays and one fail. So we're going to go ahead and get that wired up, and then we'll move on.
So it's got a positive and a negative for both of the switches. We just ran both of the negatives together and I'm going to ground them right here on a carburetor stud. And since the kit came with the new studs and nuts, I'm just going to use one of my old nuts to go on top, like so.
All right, so we have everything installed now, and we're looking over the electrical. Since this relay activates both of the solenoids, we hooked it up so that both of the leads to the solenoids hook to the output wire on the relay. The solenoids are bipolar, so it doesn't matter which way you hook them up. There are 2 wires coming out of each one. One goes to positive, one goes to negative. When this relay flips, the positive is sent out to both solenoids and they connect to a chassis ground. Make sure before you hook everything up that you test and make sure your electrical system is working and that the relay you installed is flipping over and both of the solenoids are flipping over. You can typically hear them, but when you have multiple at one time, sometimes it's easiest to just put your hand on it and you can feel it click. So Moser's holding the ground, and when I touch power, we'll hear the relays click. And we had one of our wonderful helpers put his hand on the other solenoids off camera to make sure they were clicking as well, and everything's working.
Okay, so even though this budget kit does not come with a pressure gauge, we just think it makes sense to have a pressure gauge to where you know how much you have. That way you don't end up running it dry and then throwing a bunch of fuel to it and making it run like absolute crap. Be able to run out, see how much pressure we have. No, we can get a couple good passes in. Got one with the, I think this is a manifold. Got the manifold piece to where we can screw it in, figure out what orientation it's going to be in to mount this gauge and see how much pressure we got. There's 2 different ports on each side, and we're just threading this down in that to where it blocks that off, where just that's going for the gauge. This is for if at some point you wanted to put a purge system in. Now we're going to go ahead and thread it onto the solenoid here.
It's got 98,000 views.
Like that angle.
So we got the little block off screw down in the bottom. Screwed the gauge up to the top. Now all we got to do is reconnect our feed line here, and we'll have a pressure gauge. Okay, so we had a change of heart. Wanted to at least put something temporary in here to cover it up, keep it out of the elements. And it is a big fine to get caught running around with your bottle hooked up. Obviously it's not hooked up, we don't have juice or anything in it just yet, but to keep it out of sight, be nice, close it up, seal it up, and it is notable that you cannot put children in the box, no matter how much you want to. Only non-breathing things can go in the box. They'll suffocate or something like that.
All right, so now we're in the interior and we're going to finish up all the electrical. So the kit comes with 2 different switches. This is the arming switch. This will turn the system on so that you can activate it when you're ready. It also comes with a momentary switch, just like from the Fast and Furious, where you hit the button and activate the nitrous. We have decided that we're going to go with a little different setup, but I wanted to show you what came with the kit first. we are going to go with one of these old school silver toggle switches, just because in Moser's truck he has one for his fan, so we're going to hook one up that looks just like it, and this is the same arming switch. And then we're also going to go with a full throttle switch that you can buy from Nitrous Express. This is actually their switch that comes with a bracket that hooks up on the carburetor, so when the throttle rotates, it presses this switch. The way we have wired everything up, we're using a ground-based system, so all of these switches, when they're activated, will complete the ground to the relays to activate them. So they have power all the time, and when this is pressed and the system is armed, you'll get the completed circuit on the relay and activate the system.
Alright guys, so at this point the system is complete. Just going to do like an overview, everything that came with the kit Nitrous Express provided us with. Obviously we have the bottle, the bracket and everything to be able to bolt wherever you're bolting it to, your fittings and your hose. Run down up underneath. I got it running up through all the way around up to the gauge that we added in. Didn't come with the kit, but then the solenoids all came with it. Obviously your plate, the hard lines running through, and then run the wiring up and through. To our switches, we use switches other than what the kit provided because I already had the toggle switch very similar to that for the fans.
Alright guys, so I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something from it. We definitely learned a lot. The next series of this is going to be getting the bottle filled and taking it to the dyno, so stay tuned for that. That should be pretty cool. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and in the meantime, we'll keep an eye out for Freddy. See you next time.
You look at the camera.
Look at, yeah, just talk to the camera. It's really awkward, but you have to talk to the camera.
Talk to me.
So like,
that makes it worse. The camera's good looking, you're ugly.